Welcome back to the news at 10. Some youths from an estate in Mangoro area of Lagos have staged a peaceful march to protest the recent killing of Mr. Kolade Johnson. Mr. Johnson was shot dead on March the 31st when he came out of a viewing center in the area. Our correspondent Mary Alale Yusuf reports.
These are youth of Onikpetes area of Mangoro protesting the fatal shooting of Kolade Johnson on March the 31st, 2019. For them, it's personal because the late Kolade lived in this area.
It's our brother, it's our friend, it's our colleague. We want the SARS to be ended. We want them to be psychologically tested. We want to know whether some of them are psychologically fit. You can't just carry gun and walk on the street of Lagos. And you see people, they are liberty, of course, to wear what they want to wear, to carry the kind of hairstyle they want to carry, provided they are abiding by the law of the land.
The deceased sister is still overwhelmed with sorrow and only wants justice.
They should be eradicated. Maybe they will train them, I don't really know, but they really have to be eradicated so that there will be enough. They won't kill all our youths. They are the leaders of tomorrow.
According to eyewitness accounts like Folorunso Ismail's, on the fateful day, he and another resident were forcefully nabbed and beaten by armed Special Anti-Robbery Squad officials who stepped out of a commercial bus with no plate number. The commotion drew people from a nearby viewing center, Kolade Johnson among them. Kolade was hit by one of several bullets released by the armed men and did not survive. This is Baba Pamile Street, where the late Kolade Johnson lived. At the mouth of this road is the viewing center from which he ran when he heard the commotion. Residents in this area say they are regularly harassed and dispossessed of money by SARS. Though they are grateful for security agencies' quick intervention, the youth insist that this march is necessary to drive home their point that SARS, as it is, must be proscribed, not just for Kolade Johnson's sake, but to prevent subsequent needless harassment and killing of youth in the country. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
A very sad one there. Move over to Anambra State, where the state governor, Willie Obiano, has given beneficiaries of the prosthetic limb project the assurance that the state government will continue to enhance the services until they are comfortable and useful to themselves and the society. He gave the assurance during an inspection of a project in the state.
Songs of joy and thanksgiving from these people who lost their limbs, and through the intervention program of the wife of the governor, Mrs. Ebele Obiano, they now have limbs. Governor Willie Obiano and his wife arrived and are taken round to see the extent of intervention.
We will continue to do this because I can see it's giving a lot of people new lease of life. When you use it, after 2 or 3 months, if you have any challenges, you come back and report so that the doctor that did it can make some adjustments.
After presenting gift items to some physically challenged children, Mrs. Obiano joins 12 families at the Governor's Lodge to celebrate their multiple births.
Mommy, we selected about 12 families for you so that we also extend your magnanimity to them. Mommy, we want to appreciate you for what you are doing. It's only God that will bless you.
For the wife of the governor, the moral and academic training of the children are imperative.
We'll urge you all to make sure that you bring up these children in the way of the Lord, in the fear of the Lord, and also ensure that you train them, give them that training, because what we owe our children is to train them to give them that moral training, as well as train them in schools or in different vocations.
With the presentation of cash and food items to the parents to support their families, the Anambra State government says the welfare of the people, especially the less privileged, will continue to be its administration's priority.
And outside Nigeria, the Consul General to South Africa, Godwin Adama, has disputed reports that a number of Nigerians have been killed in xenophobic attacks recently. Speaking to Channels Television at his office in Johannesburg today, he confirmed a number of fatalities, giving details of what the mission's investigations have shown. Our South Africa Bureau Chief Pt.3 reports.
These headlines have been making the rounds, and apart from this picture being from an incident in 2015 involving non-Nigerian citizens, there have indeed been incidents with recorded Nigerian deaths.
In a place called Topfontein near Johannesburg, we had a reported case that one Mr. Bonnie Iwoha was stabbed to death around the house. And then there was a case in Cape Town that was reported. A Nigerian, Mr. Goziem Christian, was from Agbo in Delta State, was stabbed by 3 unknown assailants around the park. And no arrests have been made, but the case has been reported by the Nigerian community in Cape Town, and the investigations are on.
The Consul General, Mr. Godwin Adama, insists that the missions in the country are working with the host authorities to investigate the violent incidents, which should not be classified as xenophobic attacks.
I want to say that some of these recent killings are not necessarily xenophobic. I believe they were part of the usual crime-related killings in South Africa.
We did speak with the president of the Nigerian Union South Africa, NUSA, Mr. Adetola Olubajo, who confirmed the incidents, but added that the reasons and perpetrators in some of the cases are not yet known. Meanwhile, the founding president of NUSA, Mr. Jason Uswafo, however, added that Nigerians in South Africa must sort out internal differences in their groupings as a matter of urgency.
More Nigerians have died in the hands of Nigerians more than in the hands of South Africa. In South Africa, we as a community need to sort out 1 or 2 problems among ourselves.
For the recent incidents in Sunnyside, Pretoria involving Nigerians, the police spokesman, Captain Dan Mavimbela, told us that investigations are ongoing, but admits that there are more puzzles than answers. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Pt.3, Channels Television News.
All right, we move on to some business news now. Here's Anne Waudu.
You First. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Ijoma. Let's begin business news tonight with the International Monetary Fund saying that it expects Nigeria's economy to grow by 2.1% this year, and that's up from 2% projection that was given in January, representing an increase of 0.1%. The Bretton Woods institution made this known in its latest World Economic Outlook report, which was released today at the ongoing spring meetings of the IMF and the World Bank Group. The IMF had earlier cut its growth projection for Nigeria's economy from 2.3% contained in the October 2018 report to 2% on the back of lower oil prices. Meanwhile, the IMF has projected a slowdown in growth for 70% of the world's economy this year. IMF's chief economist and director of research, Ms. Geeta Gopinath, made this known today in her presentation of the World Economic Outlook for this year in Washington, D.C. She says she expects the global economy to grow by 3.3% this year, and that's down from 3.5%, which was earlier forecast in January this year.
The escalation of U.S.-China trade tensions, needed credit tightening in China, macroeconomic stress in Argentina and Turkey, disruptions in the auto sector in Germany, and financial tightening alongside the normalization of monetary policy in the larger advanced economies have all contributed to a significantly weakened global expansion, especially in the second half of 2018. With this weakness expected to persist into the first half of 2019, our new World Economic Outlook projects a slowdown in growth in 2019 for 70% of the global economy.
The Senate has passed the 2019-2021 medium-term expenditure framework and Fiscal Strategy paper. That's after receiving the report of its Committee on Finance. In that report, the committee made several recommendations which the Senate adopted at Tuesday's plenary session. Our correspondent Linda Akibe reports.
The chairman of the Senate Finance Committee presents the MTEF report at Tuesday's plenary session, 6 months after it was referred to the committee for legislative work. The Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, and Fiscal Policy Paper, FSP, are planning tools intended to spell out the federal government's objectives and priorities.
In general, the MTEF and FSP ensure the prudent management of financial resources.
As important as these planning documents are, the executive has repeatedly failed to submit the MTEF and FSP on time, flouting the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which states that the MTEF is to be presented to the Federal Executive Council before the end of the second quarter of the year and should be laid before the National Assembly 4 months before the next financial year. Nevertheless, the chairman of the Senate's Committee on Finance presents the MTEF, pointing out the recommendations by the committee on the key assumptions.
The committee recommends the adoption of $60 per barrel of crude as oil benchmark price for the 2019 fiscal year budget. The committee recommends the adoption of 305 naira to $1 as the official exchange rate of the 2019 fiscal year, and encourages the CBN to continue adopting strategies that will aid in the strengthening of the naira and bridging the gap between the official and parallel market rate.
The committee, however, reduced the proposal for the budget deficit, largely financed by borrowing, from 1.86 to 1.64 trillion naira.
The committee recommends the adoption of 164 trillion as the amount for new borrowing to fund the budget deficit, and advises relevant agencies to continue exploring ways of generating additional revenues for government to bring down the fiscal deficit. The federal government should consider reducing the granting of waivers and exemptions, and the Federal Inland Revenue Service should consider increasing tax on luxury goods and services.
Those in favor of the recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate President also reminds the Appropriations Committee of its deadline of Thursday, April 11, to submit the report on the 2019 budget, warning that standing committees which fail to submit their budget reports to the Appropriation Committee by Wednesday, April 10th, would have their budgets passed as presented by the executive. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Those against say nay.
The domestic equities market has ended on a negative note for the second day this week, driven by sell pressure across all sectors of the NSE. Let's join BC Adebayo for the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. After a hard landing of 1.53% on Monday, the Nigerian equities market managed a soft landing of minus 0.04% on Tuesday, but the main index remains below the 30,000 level. Tuesday's loss is still attributed to a further slip in the shares of market heavyweights, including Dangote Cement. Now, all the 5 major indices were also in the red, with the insurance sector taking the heaviest hit. Tier 2 lender Sterling Bank was the most actively traded, churning out over 119 million units, followed by Chams and FBNH. At the end of the session, the market recorded a total volume of 374.02 million, valued at 3.05 billion naira in 3,634 deals. And that's it on the Stock Market Reports. I am BC Adebayo.
Thank you, BC. Negative sentiments have also swept across major global stock markets, and investors' concerns over latest earnings set to hit Wall Street this week, as well as fresh tariff from U.S. government. Let's see how they all closed today. Well, those numbers will end business news tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwaudo. It's back to you, Joma.
You First. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, we take a trip around the world in 5 minutes with Amarachi Upani. Do stay with us.